Hey, today is Monday, so come on in, pull up a chair. The Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at The Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com. So today is Monday, March 4th, and this is episode 257 of The Daily Dope. So, welcome aboard. If this is your first time joining me, kick back, relax. This is a very casual show. It is a live stream. I mainly talk about tabletop board games, role-playing games, all tabletop gaming, really. Every once in a while, a little bit of geek culture as well. On tonight's show, I'm going to share a little bit of a how to play and also review the Boldest. Yes, the Boldest from Stronghold Games. So that's coming up in just a little bit. So I do want to point out, today is International Game Masters Day, or International GM Day, and I gotta be honest, I can't believe it has been 11 years since Gary Gygax passed away. I was like, whoa. Took me a second. I was like, wait a second. Yeah, that's right. 2008. It seems like it was just a couple of years ago. I'm telling you, folks, when you get older, time flies. It really does. So, anyway, this is a live stream, so that means chat is available on YouTube. It is not on screen. It's one of the ways that I try to keep some of the stranger commenters at bay. But I do pay attention to the chat, so if you'd like to say hello, or maybe you've got a question, or possibly there's something about the Boldest you'd like to find out about, maybe I'm not covering it in depth enough, just feel free and fire away. I will respond. Okay, so do want to point out too, if you like the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you check out a few of the videos on the Gaming Gang channel and you like them, by all means, please subscribe. Don't forget to ring that bell, because that will not only notify you when a new video goes up, it will also let you know when the stream goes live. And it's normally Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I've got some news today. I'm going to hop into the news. I know some folks out there are not big news fans as far as the Daily Dope goes. So I say it all the time. Check the show notes below if you want to skip past the tabletop gaming news of the day. All right, so I'm taking a look and reviewing the Boldest from Stronghold Games today, and they also have a Kickstarter that is about 200% funded. They relaunched their Kickstarter project for the latest design from Alan R. Moon, and I've got the dope on Aftershock, San Francisco, and Venice. The world has been hit with mega earthquakes. The worst destruction has devastated the San Francisco Bay Area. It is a time of rebuilding to restore this area to its former glory. In Aftershock, San Francisco, and Venice, players will spend money to acquire planning cards, which are used to increase population, build bridges, and determine where aftershocks occur. Spend money wisely to acquire aftershocks that will allow you to move people into and out of the demolished areas. Planning and careful negotiation are essential in order to maintain your population and score your best planned cities and bridges. Aftershock San Francisco and Venice is an area control and resource management game for 2 to 5 players that plays in 60 minutes. Players with the most points at the end of the game will be the winner. So, gotta say, Stronghold Games is excited to relaunch Aftershock San Francisco and Venice with the following changes. We're launching with the Venice components included, which allow for more dynamic and interactive games at lower player counts. We're also including the previously optional District 6 expansion with every pledge, and no deluxe components, which lowers weight, shipping, and production costs. There also was the update to the name to help differentiate this from other games with similar titles. So there's a video from Stronghold Games, runs a little more than a minute. Let's kick back and give it a watch. Aftershock. Yes, Aftershock, San Francisco and Venice is for 2 to 5 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around 60 minutes. You can reserve a copy plus all unlocked stretch goals for a $45 pledge through March 11th, so this is going to wrap up pretty quickly. There is an expected delivery date of November of this year. So Ghost World's popping in. How do you do, Ghost? Good to see you again. Yes, mega earthquakes. Were normal earthquakes enough? Do want to point out, just from talking about the game, people might not realize that, no, this is not the great San Francisco earthquake of, what was it, 1906? I think it was 1906. Somewhere around there. No, this is a modern mega earthquake. So I did mention that there was a bit of a change to the game's title because there had been already a game out there called Aftershock, which I guess was kind of an edutainment sort of game, sort of to educate people about people being displaced by disasters and stuff like that. So yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting how, because Stronghold Games didn't have to change the name of the game; they could have the same title as another game. It's pretty common, not common word, but it's not like they're coining this word Aftershock. All right, so next news piece. AEG seems to have a thing going with a painting theme this year with the recently announced Atelier, I think it's called Atelier, studio of the painter, the painter's studio, I want to say it's called. Now there's another new title, Walking in Burano. I think it's pronounced Burano, and I've got the dope. Burano is a beautiful island of Venice in Italy, known for its colorful houses. Walking through the island, you'll see these vibrant houses on both sides of the canal, as well as the personal decor placed by the inhabitants of these houses and shops. Tourists always linger on the street to appreciate and enjoy the view. The colorful houses of Burano need a fresh coat of paint in order to stay beautiful and vivid. Use your creativity to refurbish and decorate the houses and amaze the tourists and local people with your masterpiece. Walking in Burano is a family game. Players place the floor cards in order to receive a visit from different characters. They'll score points based on the various symbols on the houses. To be the player with the most points at the end of the game is your goal. Walking in Burano is for 1 to 4 players, ages 10 and up, plays around 20 to 40 minutes, and will carry an MSRP of $29.99 when it arrives in Q4 of this year. Q4, that's pretty far off. Gotta say, this looks kind of interesting. Although it's showing, there's some examples of, I believe this is a Chinese or Japanese game design. They're showing an image. There's a police officer, and he's looking pretty ticked off, not looking too friendly. As far as looks like the locals or visitors. I don't know if you'd want him coming to visit. Maybe he's be tossing you in jail. Yes, Ghost says probably was probably a good idea for Stronghold Games to change the name from just Aftershock. I had heard, I can't remember the other company's name, but I had heard some things through like back channels and that they were very upset. So, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of like, well, how do you trademark Aftershock? I don't know. It's like, how do you trademark Aftershave? This is my game, Aftershave. Nobody used this title for anything. So, all right, how about a little bit of wargame news? Because Tiny Battle Publishing has released the modern warfare game Tango Down, and I've got a wee bit of the dope. Tiny Battle Publishing is excited to present Tango Down. Tango Down is a tense game of modern house clearing operations with scenarios taken from both the headlines and the movies. Hostage rescue, daring escapes, desperate last stands, ticking time bombs, and more. Each player controls one or more fire teams, with each member having a counter and specific stats, augmented by action cards that cover the fog of war, special tactics, and event timing. Leaders, marksmen, fanatics, barricades, assault shields, breaching charges, and more are covered in the rules. Tango Down includes full color rules, 70 double-sided 1-inch counters, so we've got those big chunky counters, 2 11 by 17 maps, and 18 action cards. In addition to the 10 included scenarios, units have a point system so you can choose your own forces, and the map system allows you to adapt virtually any architectural drawing into a Tango Down battlefield. Tango Down is a low complexity war game for 2 players, plays in about 60 minutes to maybe 2 hours. You can score the game right now for $29. It is not, I repeat, not available as a print and play over on Wargame Vault. It is only available as a physical game from my friends over at Tiny Battle Publishing. Should point out, this is also a Greg Porter design. Pretty cool, good stuff. All right, so how about a little bit of role-playing game news? It is International GM's Day. So Modiphius Entertainment has announced a partnership with Iron GM Games to bring the science fiction, I think it's more like a science fiction horror game, honestly, to the masses. It's coming to Kickstarter, and this is called Grimmer Space, and it will be compatible with good old Starfinder. Here's the dope. Modiphius is proud to announce an exciting deal with Iron GM Games that makes Modiphius the worldwide distributor of Glimmer Space, which is coming to Kickstarter in May 2019. Glimmer Space is a sci-fi horror RPG setting for the hit Starfinder role-playing game by Paizo Publishing. Co-developed by beloved actor-director Sean Astin. Yes, that's right. That Sean Astin from The Lord of the Rings and Stranger Things, among just a few of his roles, or few of the films and series he's been in. It's also been designed along with award-winning game designers Lou Agresta and Roan Barton. Hopefully I'm getting that right. Glimmer Space is set in a non-magical science fiction horror universe, and the citizens of Grimmer Space, did I say Glimmer Space? It's Grimmer Space. Known as Grimmers, are veterans of fighting alien abominations from the depths. Despite its strangeness and its terrors, theirs remains a rational, scientific reality. Until now. The Grimmers don't know it yet, but the evil Sunder Mages, near immortal sorcerers wielding godlike power, ripped into their universe not long ago through a vast tear in space-time called the Seath. As the Seath leaks magic into their galaxy the first time, these Sunder Mages plot from the shadows to conquer the 5 distinct technological civilizations of Grimmer Space. Soon, science and magic will come to world-ending blows. Grimmer Space takes place in the Gilding Rim Galaxy, aka the G-Rim. That sounds kind of dirty. The core narrative tension of the universe is a conflict between technology and magic, as a galaxy, previously devoid of magic, is flipped upside down by the arrival of powerful mages. Will you choose bullets or fireballs to wage war against alien horrors? Oh, yes, look at this. Ghost World's like, hey, yeah, this is right up my alley. And Sean Astin, Samwise, I'm on board. Well, I'll tell you what, if anybody else watching is not on board, why don't you hear from Sean Astin himself?
Hi, I'm Sean Astin. You may know me from The Lord of the Rings or Stranger Things, even The Alphas or Jeremiah or The Strain. But you might not know that I've joined my friends Lou Agresta and Roan Barton to develop an RPG setting and adventure book called Grimmer Space. And it's more than just one book. We're planning at least 3 plus 2 full-length adventures, because the Grimmer Space world is sci-fi and it's horror. And it's also about an ancient army of sinister wizards invading a far-off galaxy. The advanced civilizations of Grimmer Space have always beaten whatever the universe threw at them. Alien invasions, bioengineered super plagues, just another day in the office. But they've never faced anything like magic before, not even close. Picture it, science fiction heroes locked and loaded against an onslaught of science fantasy villains. Ever want to shoot a mage in the neck? Now's your chance, soldier. Grimmer Space has so many unique worlds to explore, factions to join or defy, civilizations to discover, terror planets, galaxy-wide mysteries, and they all let you star in mind-blowing adventures from some of tabletop role-playing's biggest names. Our authors and artists have already created amazing things for Grimmer Space, and it's my honor to make sure that every storyline in your game packs that Hollywood blockbuster punch. Because this isn't just a setting book full of background. It's a full-color, 256-page hardcover that's half adventures that will teach you all about Grimmer Space by letting you really live there. Probably die there too. Lou and Roan never returned from their last mission, so I'm doing this video alone. But we can't do this alone. We need your help to make Grimmer Space happen. Thank you, and we'll see you in Grimmer Space.
Of course, I will share more information about Grimmer Space once the Kickstarter gets rolling. So this is one thing I will point out. I am showing both the Modiphius web address as well as Iron GM web address. There is more info at the Iron GM web address. So definitely check this out. So Ghost is saying, tell me this was out yesterday. No, it's hitting Kickstarter in May. So it hasn't even hit Kickstarter yet. So here's something kind of odd that I was going to mention. Not only, now, okay, so I don't know, because there's no mention of this person anymore involved with this project, but I had seen this was being promoted as being Sean Astin and Wesley Snipes, which I believe it's Dr. Wesley Snipes now. But I was like, what? I was like, since when did Wesley Snipes play like role-playing games? Actually, I didn't know Sean Astin played role-playing games either. So there's that. All right, so do want to also point out, let's wrap up with another piece of role-playing game news. Nothing that I'm going to go get. What is going on here? Yeah, something's cooking here with this stream that's not... It's all over the place. In fact, it looked like it just dropped a minute ago. So I don't know why this thing does not stick with a constant bit rate like I want it to. You know what I'm going to do here? Because it looks like the actual kilobits per second were really, really low. Hey, Ghost, you're watching live. Let me ask you, when you first started watching, was it not real clear? I'm kind of curious here. Oh yeah, I know a lot of actors are into role-playing games. I just didn't realize Sean Astin was one. So yeah, because it's bounced. It's supposed to stay at 4,500 kilobits per second. That's where it's supposed to stay as far as the stream. And I don't know what the deal is trying to use the trying to use the GPU, the graphic card. I don't know. This is kind of bizarre. So came in. It was crystal clear. Since I played the Sean Astin video, it was dipping. Yeah. Okay. So let's take a look here, real quick. It's kind of funny. It was crystal clear, even though the stream didn't seem to be... Got sort of blocky. Way worse, though, on other days. Well, yeah, but we'll see. Let's swap this up a little bit. Okay, we'll see what we get here. Because, yeah, and then... yeah, so it should... Right, it shouldn't be doing a bunch of buffering. So, well, we'll see. We'll see what's going on. Anyway, I was going to say the latest issue of Dragon Plus is out. I know it's been sitting there on your screen for, I don't know, 3 minutes or so now. So, there's just a little bit of dope about it. There is a bit of discussion about Ghosts of Saltmarsh, which, of course, is the next Wizards of the Coast release in hardcover for Dungeons & Dragons. From what I was looking at, kind of the index, the table of contents, it's a lot of stuff that's not really sort of like tabletop game related. Kind of, I don't know. Dragon Plus can be really hit or miss, in my opinion. Sometimes you'll get a good issue, and yes, it is a house organ like nobody's business. But every once in a while you'll get a decent issue of Dragon Plus, and then you turn around and not so hot. So I don't know. But it was really, really weird. I was kind of looking at table of contents, and there's kind of a discussion a little bit about Ghosts of Saltmarsh, which is actually just going to be reprints of the U series plus some Dungeon Magazine adventures that are being ported over to 5th edition, which I thought was a little weak in my opinion, but that's just me. Anyway, so yeah, so I was kind of like, yeah, okay, alrighty. But I do like the free magazine. It's okay. Usually it's halfway decent. So did want to mention changed the lighting a little bit. Changed up the lighting a little to make it a little more natural. I had a lot of light on me, so I was like really pale looking. I don't, I actually have a little color to me. So, but yeah, I kind of messed around with some stuff to try to get less glare on the games and stuff like that too. So we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. All right. So do want to mention before I start talking about what's coming up on the Daily Dope this week, as well as jumping into the Boldest, time to bring down Lil Whizbub. That's right, Lil Whizbub's coming down to remind you, if you like the Gaming Gang, or if you happen to dig the Daily Dope by any stretch, or maybe both, then I ask that you consider making a small donation to Lil Bub's Big Fund at the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. This is awarded as grant monies to different organizations out there who do care for special needs pets before they find their forever homes. They help these animals get adopted. So, because this is a not-for-profit project these days, I just say, hey, you know what? If you like the Daily Dope, if you like the Gaming Gang, consider donating a couple of bucks, $5, something like that. And if you do, by all means, shoot me an email. My email address is in the lower corner, and I will give you a shout out on the following show. Now, I do have to point out, I have had a couple of people who have emailed me and said, hey, I donated, but I don't want a shout out. And it's like, okay, that's cool. And I'm cool with that too. I do some different charity things that I don't like sit there patting my back about. So Bubstar Galactica, no Ghost, you did that last week, man. That's not new. That's not a new one. So Lead Magnets chiming in. No, I am not gray. and I'm not a gray either. So no, I am not from another universe or anything like that. Okay, so what's cooking on the Daily Dope the rest of the week and even into next? Tomorrow, I am going to take a first look and unbox, and this box is actually pretty hefty. I'm going to be taking a look at Zephyr Winds of Change. This is from Portal Dragon. It's for 1 to 5 players. This is kind of a steampunkish game. And I believe one of the cool aspects about it is that you'll have different characters. And there you go. Eternal Sunshine of a Bubbleless Mind. That's better. That's better, Ghost. But you get different characters, and I believe they're like a plastic or something like that, where you can actually have there's some transparency, so you change the background, the kind of character they are. I believe. Don't know. We'll have to find out. But looks kind of interesting, and this box has quite a good amount of heft. So that will be on tomorrow's show. Wednesday's show, I'm going to be reviewing Space Corp 2025 to 2300 AD from my friends over at GMT Games. And I am also going to, as a bonus on Wednesday's show, because it is Wargame Wednesday, I am going to take a first look at one of the Tiny Battle Publishing titles that I got. Let's see, what can we do? What can we peek at? You know what? Here we go. We'll look at. We will look at. Hey, you know what? I know what we'll do. We will take a look at. Yeah Magazine. That's right. Yeah Magazine with Lion of Malta as the featured game. So we will actually take a page through of Ya Magazine. I forget what issue. I don't think it's got a number on the front of it. Oh, there we go. It's number 6. So it's Ya Magazine number 6. To kind of give you an idea of what that magazine is like. Normally the games that come with it are along the same lines as what you'd get from Tiny Battle Publishing. So, pretty cool. Then on Thursday's show, Thursdays Means RPGs, I will be diving in and taking a first look at Castle Falkenstein. Yes, I have always heard really good things about the steampunkish Castle Falkenstein. I'll also be paging through the expansion here. Comme il faut, I believe it is how it's pronounced. Then Friday's show, I got stuff just piled all over the place. We're going to take a first look at Traveler Ascension Imperial Warrant from Daring Play. Yes, it took years for this to finally come out. But I think it's Malaya, not Malta. Hey, Led, you're right, it is Malaya. Yeah, I don't know. What was I You know what I was thinking? So I was thinking of the old Steve. Well, it's not that old. It probably came out about 7 years ago. The Malta Besieged game from Steve Carey that came out from Victory Point Games. I saw the map on the back, and for some strange reason, as I was looking at this map here, I don't know, it just popped in my head that it was Malta, not Malaya. Thanks for pointing that out, Led. Anyway, so yes, Traveler Ascension Imperial Warrant. I just funded about 3 years ago. This is another box that's pretty hefty. And yes, this will be on Friday's show. And yes, Ghost World, there is a magazine called YAH! Y-A-A-H exclamation point. So next Monday's show, I will go ahead and yes, I will review Helios Expanse. Because I do understand, yes, it is now coming out for sale for Greenbrier Games. So that will be on Monday's show. And then on Tuesday's show, look at this, how far ahead I've already planned stuff out. I am going to unbox and take a first look at Kanban Driver's Edition. This is number 9 in the Great Designers series. This is kind of a... I want to say a deluxe edition of Kanban, which did pretty well for Stronghold. And it's kind of a game where you're working as far as like working, not necessarily working, kind of designing the assembly line for different cars. So I've heard good things about it. So we'll take a look and see what's cooking with that. All right, so I'm sure folks are tuning in to check out my review of The Boldest, which is from editions Spielweise and Stronghold Games. It's designed by Sophia Wagner, with artwork provided by Max Prentice. The game is for 2 to 5 players. I have seen in other places saying 3 to 5 players, but it is for 2 to 5 players. I promise you. Ages 10 and up, plays in 30 to 90 minutes. I cannot possibly imagine, even with 5 players, this taking 90 minutes to play. It does carry an MSRP of $79.95. You plan so far ahead, I don't even know what I'm going to have for breakfast tomorrow. Well, Ghost, that's just how it works. That's okay, because my best friend Elliot Miller, God love him, he can't tell you what he had for lunch yesterday. So he can tell you about a Call of Cthulhu adventure I ran 25 years ago, but he can't tell you what he had for breakfast yesterday or lunch. All right, so we're switching on over to the other camera. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Oh, we should be good. Yeah, there we go. All right, so as you can see, got rid of a bunch of the glare. So it's not as well lit as it had been in the past, but at least we do not have big splotches of glare popping up. So as far as the Boldest is kind of a science fantasy setting. So it's almost as if, and it's not necessarily on Earth, but it's almost as if civilization had fallen, all this time has passed, people are utilizing, pieces of the ancient technology and things like that, probably not exactly knowing what it is. It's kind of the vibe I get from The Boldest. There isn't a lot of discussion in the book about the actual kind of background of it. I kind of have the impression that mechanically, the artwork itself probably drove a lot of the design decisions, actually. So, this is a dual-sided board. This is a 2-sided board. So if you're playing with 2 or 3 players, you would flip this board over. You'll have fewer monsters and artifacts and items, as well as characters to recruit if you're playing 2 or 3 players. There's you got to kind of keep your eyes peeled in the rules as far as the number of players, because you'll have like, for an example, this is 4 or 5 players. There's special rules where if you've got 3 players, so it isn't as if it's as you'll see a lot of games where it'll be like, oh, if you're playing with 2 or 3 players, it's this. If you're playing with 4 to 6 or what have you, oh, then it's this. With the rules for The Boldest, you have to kind of make sure to pay attention to it, because there are some little tweaks, and it's not just with 4 or 5 players or 3 or fewer players. So each of the players is going to receive their own faction deck. Now this faction deck is it's going to contain their heroes that they're going to utilize. So you've got cooks. So you'll have 5 cooks, and each of the factions have different artwork, but each of the factions, different types of characters, will have the same artwork. All in all, there are over 100 unique pieces of art to The Boldest. But for an example, these are cooks. These are fighters. Now you're going to notice that each of these has the same base color to them, which is right here. So you can actually kind of tell what faction these characters belong to without even looking on the back. So this is a technician. And that is a hunter. And then this is your animal. So each of the factions also have different animals. Of course, because I'm a big cat fan, I've got the faction that's got the cat. So you'll notice here there isn't a lot for you to discern from these cards themselves. These are your starting characters that are available to you. They do not have special abilities. It's just hunter, technician, cook, fighter. Now you will notice on the board here, and I've got the board laid out sideways because otherwise we would not be able to fit this all in. So plus, if you're playing multiple players in the game, you don't necessarily always get to sit across from somebody or like get to sit right at the bottom so you're facing up onto the board. So we'll take a tour around here. So as I mentioned, we're set up for a 4 or 5 player game. So this area here, this is the forest. Because what's happened here is the king has made a call to all the adventurers from the different factions and said, hey, I want you to go into the forest, slay monsters, and bring back these artifacts. And of course, the factions are like, sure, you got it. So what you're looking for is you're looking for your victory points, but they're more like legend points. And you will see these items have numbers on them. These cards, I should say, they're not all items. These cards all have numbers on them. That is how many legend points or victory points those are worth. So, because this is set up for 4 or 5 players, we have 25 of these cards out. Yes, my mug is actually blocking off a little bit up here. It's only a couple of cards. So that is the forest. Now, this is camp. So this is kind of the camp here. We've got these fire cards. I'll explain what these do in a second. And then we also have additional character cards. So we've got those. And then we have more character cards. So what you're going to end up doing is each of your turns, you're going to have to create with 3 or more players. And once again, we're going to see right here in the upper corner, this is your planning board. So on the planning board is where you're going to actually lay down your characters, your heroes that you want to send off into the forest. Now, only the strongest parties are going to be able to go into the forest. So I will talk about that in just a sec. So we also have heroes that can be recruited right here. This is the King's Tent. It's kind of our discard pile, really, is the King's Tent. This is where we put the rest of our forest cards, which are a mixture of monsters, items, and artifacts. Then here we're going to have the banners of each of the factions. Now, what will happen here is when you create these groups, what you're looking to do is have the highest strength. Now, sometimes you might have a tie with another player of having the highest strength. So, in the case of a tie, whoever's banner is furthest to the left would actually win that tie. So, it's a little different with 5 players, 4 or 5 players. So, let's say, for an example, you're playing a 3-player game, and it's a tie between green and gray. Well, green's banner is further ahead of the gray, so you would actually do this and move it like that in the case of a tie. So in the case of the tie, whoever's banner is the furthest up is the winner. They win the tie, but then their banner is going to go all the way to the end. In the case of 4 and 5 players, in the case of a tie, both the players, 2 of the players are going to actually get to take their actions, and whoever happens to have the second furthest back is going to go to the end. It's just kind of a tiebreaker way, and one of the reasons why it's set up this way is so that every time you have a tie, it's not the same person who gets to take advantage of that tie. So what you'll do is, and everybody's got this little screen that they're going to plot and make their plans with, but completely language independent, you will notice it's going to walk you through what you're going to do in each of your turns. Now, depending on the number of players, is how long this game is going to last. So, you will have more rounds with fewer players, because, of course, you're looking to try to get this game in a decent amount of time. So, how you start off is, I'll give you an example, and I'm going to cover this up a little bit. You're going to start off, this is kind of your home, right? This is kind of like your hamlet, your town, where your characters hang out. So characters that are not being used are going to go to the dormitory here. So actually, this might be a little more confusing, seeing that the way the artwork is there. All these cards, these might get lost in it. So what you end up doing is, the heroes who are not being used go to the dormitory face down. The heroes that you want to use in your teams are going to go into the planning over here. So, what you'll have is, you'll have, as I mentioned before, your hunters, your techs, your fighters, your cooks, and your animals. Now, what you want to do is, you're not going to put together groups where it's like, okay, I've got a hunter, and I've got a tech, and I've got a fighter. No, you don't do that. What you end up doing is, you need them to all be the same. So, for an example, you're going to have all techs, you're going to have all fighters, you have all hunters, if you want. Part of the game is a bit of a bluff, or trying to do things that your opponents aren't expecting you to do. So, as an example, if we take a look, we see there are pretty high value artifacts here. So, these are both 8s. This item is only a 1. This is a 5. This is a 1. Now, this is all random. These cards are all laid out here randomly. There is no like rhyme or reason to exactly what you're looking at here. So, fighters, whoever has the highest strength as far as fighters, will go take their action first. They go into the forest, into the first rank. This is the first rank right here. So it's the first row. And they're able to take either a monster or an item. Right there it's showing you monster or item. Orange is monsters, blue are items. So, for an example, if, say, I had the most strength out of my team with the fighters, then I would get to go and I could take either this item or that item. Fighters cannot take relics. Just regular standard run-of-the-mill fighters cannot take relics. Now, technicians go first. So you got your techs. All right, where am I missing a tech here? Where did it go? There we go. I was going to say, I should have 3 techs. What's going on here? Okay, so what the techs can do is the techs can take either an item or they can take an artifact from the first row. So looking here, once again, the purple, that's going to be the artifacts, blue are items, and right here it's showing you just there's 4 little spaces there, only the lowest one is filled in. So that means, once again, you can only take from this spot here. Then we've got the hunters. And what the hunters can do is the hunters can actually, whoever's got the highest strength in the hunters, can actually take any item on the board anywhere, as long as it has a little target symbol on it. Just like so. Just like this has a target symbol. And that's how the hunters work. Now the cooks, what the cooks do, whoever has the most cooks gets to actually recruit 3 of the adventurers that are hanging out here in the village. So if you decided to get the cooks, then you'd be looking at being able to take 3 of these cards. And what happens is these cards will actually be swapped out. These heroes will be swapped out each turn. So you'll have new heroes available. So it's like, if there's somebody here that you're like, wow, I really want to get my hands on them, you got to get them while the iron's hot. So you want to keep in mind, though, in a 4 or 5 player game, the top 2 strength players get to take those actions. So I'll kind of give you an idea of what you would do in your planning. You'll also notice that some of these are going to show kind of a little icon here. So we've got almost like a power hammer almost. And this almost looks like this is almost like a drone or something like that. And then I'm talking about this item right here, the little icon down on the bottom. So what that means is that counts as something, an item you can use. You can use an item. We also have where we see, say for an example here, in order to be able to get this card, you would have to have an item or a character as the leader who has that item, has that icon on it. Otherwise, you can't get this card. Same with this. Same with fighting this monster. You can't defeat this monster unless you use an item that would have that icon on it, or you have a character, for an example here, as your leader for your team who has that icon on it. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to have your screen up, right? So, okay, so nobody can see what you're doing. You'll have your screen up here. But what you're going to end up doing is you have to decide how many of these characters. I should point out unless if I didn't mention it, the animals are wild. So the animals just simply add an extra point of strength to the groups. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a look to see, okay, so what's floating around out here that we could get our hands on. And of course, got to keep in mind, this is all going to be simultaneous. Everybody's going to be doing the planning phase at the same exact time. So everybody's looking at the same things, right? Everybody has, to start off with, they've got the same number of heroes with all the same exact abilities. So the point is to utilize your cards, utilize the heroes that you've got smartly, and not get stuck doing the same exact thing that everyone else is doing. But the funny thing is, you'll have people who are like, well, yeah, obviously I'm not going to do that. Everybody else is going to do that. And then it turns out nobody does it because everybody figures, okay, everybody's doing that, so I'm not doing it, and then nobody does it. So kind of give me an example. What you do is when you put your team together, you got to put your team together of the same type, right? So we got the same type. Let's say we got fighters here. Let's say I decide, yeah, there's some characters out here I really want. I'm going to take 3 cooks. And then just for the heck of it, I'm going to use a hunter. And of course, normally you would put it face down. Then everybody reveals their cards at the same time. And it's important that the character, the hero that's on top, is the leader. This is considered to be the leader. And the reason why is that when you start recruiting more heroes to your faction, their special ability only counts if they are the leader of that group. Because what will happen is, let's say for an example, I win the fighter. I'd say, okay, so let's say my two fighters. Everybody else was like, okay, I'm only doing one fighter. So I won the strength with the fighter. I would be able to say, okay, well, there aren't any monsters in this first row, but there are items. And taking a look, let's see what we got. Pretty good mix of everything. I have these two to start off with because every faction is going to get 2 items to start with. So I'll say, okay, this is different. I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this one right here. So we're going to drop that down. And we're going to replace the card. So I was the hunter. I was the fighters. I got that. So yay, hooray! I got another item. I can put it with my stuff right here. Now let's say I was able to get the cooks. Yay! I got the cooks. Cool. So I'm gonna get to take 3. So let's say I take this one, and this one. So they're going to go into my dormitory. I'll replace. Well, actually, I shouldn't replace those yet. I'll replace those when I'm done. Actually, so we're playing like 4 or 5 players. Somebody else would have the cooks, so they'd get to take 3 of those too. Then let's say I tied, and I didn't get the hunter. So what would happen here is, whoever's the leader of your groups, if you actually go into the forest, that leader's going to go face down King's Tent. So the way you can kind of look at it is, hey, we were super successful, yay, and the leader did the greatest thing, and all right, now the king's like, yeah, come and party with me now. Same thing with the cooks, right? So I'd be like, boink, they're gone. Now, I did not end up using him. They did not go out. So what'll happen here is these adventurers went out. These adventurers were used. They're going to go into here, right? So this is kind of like the ale house. This is where they're off. They're partying. They're not partying with the king. They're partying down here. Now, anybody who did not go take part in any adventuring is going to end up in the dormitory. So what happens at the end of the turn then is you're going to take one of the fire cards, because these are just used as a countdown. You're going to take the fire card, you're going to play it over there, you're going to just lay it over there or whatever, get it, put it back in the box, what have you. And then you're going to take these heroes. So take them all, as I just knocked one of the cards onto the floor. I won't forget that. I'll grab it. All right, so, and then we would repopulate this with the heroes again. Huh, a lot of animals there. Okay. So you'll notice here that, like, say for an example, this hero. Well, he's a fighter. If he's the leader, this is an extra bonus you get. Now, it's not that he counts for 2. He now counts for 3 if he's the leader. But what happens is you have to be smart. You have to really sit there and manage the heroes that you have, that you're using, because once you have the highest strength and you go off into the forest, then that leader that you use that special ability, they're going to be gone. So you have to kind of juggle things. You have to juggle actually going into the forest and getting stuff. You have to juggle recruiting more heroes, because if you keep going into the jungle, you're going to run out of heroes. You're not going to have enough heroes to put here in the planning phase to be able to have the highest strength, have the highest out of all of them. So let's see, who did we pull in? So kind of give you an idea. Now this hero here, this is a tech. This tech has a special ability. So the tech's special ability is they can get an artifact, because that's what technicians do. But this technician is also a pretty good fighter. So what the technician could do is they take the lowest value monster that's adjacent to the artifact that I would take. So for an example, if I'm looking at this board right now, even though we got the card that's on the floor now, I would be, let's say this is the setup, I'd be like, okay, well, what I want to do is I want to get that, because that's an 8. I can snag the 11 because there aren't any other monsters around. So that's the lowest value monster because it's the only monster. So I might sit there and say, hey, you know what? I really want to get my techs. I really, really want to get my techs. I want to win this. So I might actually sit there and be like, okay, I'm probably going to throw in some, I actually be like, oh yeah, I'm throwing in a wild card animal or 2 so that I have the highest strength to be able to grab that. As far as the actual characters and how you go about going into the forest, it is in order. So you have the fighters first. So the fighters go in first. Remember, they can only take things from this first row. Then, and it can only be monsters and items. Then you have the technicians. They can go in and they take items, or they can take artifacts. And then you've got the hunters, and the hunters can kind of take anything as long as it has the little target symbol on it, which usually the target symbols aren't real. You don't see cards that are like really high value with the little target symbols on them. So the game's going to continue until you reveal the final round. And the final round will show you now your cooks count as fighters, because the cooks aren't going to be used to recruit anybody anymore. There's no reason for you to do any more recruiting. So cooks become fighters on the last round. And then basically you're going to use everybody you've got left to possibly be able to have the highest strength. Now what happens here, I've got the dormitory and I've got the ale house. So when a new round begins and I take my heroes from the dormitory, the ones that I had not used, then the heroes that I did use are going to go from the ale house to the dormitory. So just because you did not happen to use them, even use them as leaders and things like that, you're still not going to get to use your heroes like every turn. You're going to have heroes that are going to actually end up, if they're sent out into the forest, if they're leaders, of course, they basically get discarded to the king's tent. But if they go out into the forest on a mission, they're going to go to the ale house. On the next turn, they're not going to be available to you because they move into the dormitory. Hey, Viper Dave's popping in. Sorry, man. Didn't notice you popped on in here. Yes, dorms and ale houses. Sounds like college, Ghost World's college nights. Yeah, I would think. So, anyway, that in essence is the game. So what you're going to do is, as you have the highest strength, hopefully, you're going to be able to perform the missions, perform the actions that your characters allow you to do. So, pretty simple. Funny thing is, the rule book, and the rule book's not long. The rule book's only a few pages. Reading from just the screen actually makes a little more sense than reading it from the rules. At least that is how my nephew Cameron kind of thought. He was kind of like, huh? He goes, well, it makes sense. It's all right here. Now, funny enough, to me, I need a rule book. I mean, I prefer having some rules to look at as opposed to, yeah, we'll figure everything out from these little icons and stuff. So eventually, what you'll end up doing once you've gotten to the end and you've gone out on your last mission, you're going to have a bunch of these cards. And what I would recommend, I don't recall seeing anything in the rules about it, but I would recommend you keep these face down. Now maybe I missed it somewhere along the way in the rules, but that way nobody, it keeps things tense because nobody knows who's going to pull off the win until the very end. And of course, you'd be sitting there going, well, yeah, I remember I saw Elliot get that 11, so I know he's got that 11. He's got a couple of 8s in there I remember him grabbing, but you're not going to know exactly what the other players have. So whoever's got the most points is the victor. In the tiebreaker, if I remember right, the tiebreaker goes, I think it's most points by monsters. Let me double check. Position of the flags. Sorry about that. It says the tie player whose flag is closest to the king's tent wins the tie. Well, that's a pretty quick tiebreaker then. That's pretty simple. So heroes are not worth anything. So heroes at the end of the game are not worth any points. You do not count them. Now, if you have items, keeping in mind when you put together your crews, your teams, your parties to hopefully have the highest strength to go out into the forest, any item you're using goes with them. Any item you're using is going to go with them. And you got to be careful because, for an example, let's say somebody was like, oh yeah, well, my fighter is going to go, I had the highest fighter, so I'm going to go take this. Well, guess what? If they don't have this, either as an ability or as an item with their group, they're SOL. They're not going to get that. And it's going to be like, well, sorry, you wasted your leader, and your other team members are going to go into the dormitory. Because it's very easy for this game, if you're sitting there and you're like, oh yeah, well, no, that's okay. You can use that item if you want to now. It's way too easy to let those things slide, and then suddenly you're letting them all slide. So there was somebody, a friend of Cameron's, who was playing with us, and he kept forgetting that he had to have, like a hero with a special ability. Or I don't have any sitting out there. Let's grab one. There we go. Like have a hero with special ability as the leader to be able to take down something that had that icon on it. Keeping in mind that white means that you have to have that. Where did I put all the cards? Here we go. White means you need to spend that. Black means you're getting it. That's how that basically works. You need to spend this, and this means I've got this to spend. The artwork is super cool, and as I mentioned when we took a first look at this last week, I said I really had a feeling that it's possible that the artist, Max Prentice, draws inspiration from Mobius, the French artist who passed away. I think he passed away maybe about 5 years ago or something like that. Because his artwork has very, very similar style as Mobius did. Although I have to say that Max Prentice's artwork is a little more realistic looking. Mobius I guess I shouldn't say that. Mobius did some really realistic looking artwork, and then some that was a little more, I don't want to say cartoonish, but just not real detailed. But yeah, Mobius did some great stuff, especially a lot of heavy metal magazine. So that is basically the game. As far as the components, okay, so this is going to be a problem here. let's talk about the game itself. I like the game. We had a good time with the game. I think the game is fun. It's super easy to learn how to play. It's not it's not gonna break anybody's brain. Try to figure things out. Um, it moves along nice and quick. Once you get a kind of feel for it, just zip along. It's not really a game that you get a lot of analysis paralysis either. One of the drawbacks is it is possible for you to spend rounds not getting a chance to do anything because you don't have the highest strength in whatever category. As a fighter, as a technician, as a hunter, as a cook, it can happen, and it can lead to some frustration. But that's mainly if you're not paying attention to what the other players are doing. You have to kind of keep an eye on how other people are playing the game as well. So, for an example, if you see one of the players sits there and they just go all hog wild to win the fighters in one round because they're really trying to get their hands on killing a really high level monster, then you know damn well they're not going to be throwing out a bunch of fighters the next time. That happens more so with more players. Well, okay, so it happens more so where you're kind of sometimes stuck not doing anything in the 3-player game, because I did not play this as a 2-player game. I did play it with 3 and I played it with 5. Personally, I liked it with the 5. I liked it with 3 too, but I liked it with the 5 because you did have the 2 highest, or if they were tied for highest, getting to do stuff. So to me, it felt like there was a little less chance of not getting an opportunity to do things as with a 3-player game. But I do have to mention that when we played a 3-player game, one of the times we did that, the 3rd player was not really grasping the game, which to me I don't understand because it was super, super easy. So the game itself, artwork, really think the artwork's phenomenal. Gameplay is fun. It's not super deep. I don't know. I would maybe like to have seen a little more meat on the bones to this. But some of the stuff you got to keep an eye out are like the special abilities of some of the heroes that you can recruit. You're always keeping your eyes peeled. You're always taking a look, and you can always look to see who you've got in your dormitory, who you've got available. You can always look through the king's tent too, but it kind of gives you an idea of, okay, so right, so I got this team here. I could use them probably in the next round, but after that, I'm looking really shaky on, let's say, fighters or something like that. There's a bunch of fighters out there. I might want to spend a bunch of cooks. So there's a bit of strategy, and there's a little bit of bluffing involved, making people think you're going to do something, so they maybe spend a bunch of their characters, their heroes, to do it, and then you're like, ha ha, I didn't do that. So anyway, so I really dig it. So now let's get to the negatives. Gotta admit, the card stock, for some reason now, and maybe I'm just crazy, and it's possible I'm just crazy, but to me it feels like the card stock on the larger size cards is a little thicker than it is with the half size cards or with these square cards. Maybe I'm just cracking up, but for some reason, I mean, and not like by a great deal, but it just seems like these are a little flimsier. I don't know, maybe they feel flimsier because they're square? I don't know. But everything is this paper. The cards, the planning board, this is for if you're playing 2 players, you only have 2 teams you send out. So the player boards, the alehouse and dormitory, all of this, the banners, the flags, it's all the king's tent. It's all kind of the same stock. It's all paper. The dual-sided board This is a nice card. This is a nice mounted board. It's not super thick, but it's still nice. It'll hold up. So my problem is this is an $80 game. So I'm not keen on the cardstock quality. I think it's a little flimsier than it should be. And to me, this is not an $80 game. It's really not. And here's the odd thing. Now I'm looking at this next Monday, right? This is from Stronghold Games. So I'm trying not to pick on Stronghold Games because I like the game. On a scale of 1 to 10, I actually give this an 8.3 out of 10 just as a game. But I can't just leave it as, well, this is the game, 8.3, go out there, spend $80. I need to point out that I don't think the component quality equates to an $80 game. And I'll give you an example. So this is Kanban Driver's Edition. This has got a lot of heft to it. This is kind of like the deluxe edition of Kanban that came out. I'm looking at this on Monday. It's got a bunch of meeples. It's got like automobile meeples. Got big board cards, all this stuff. This is actually $10 less MSRP than the Boldest. Up in the corner, filling the slot. You know what? Let's switch cameras. Filling the slot here that is occupied by the Boldest, which I just replaced it since I was doing the review. Forum Trajanum, that's another new game from Stronghold Games. It's kind of like ancient Rome, and once again, tons of like meeples and cubes and stuff like that. Pick it up, got a lot of heft to it. Once again, that is $10 less as far as MSRP than the Boldest. I don't know what's going on with the MSRP. I can only assume that Stronghold had to make some sort of a deal, maybe with what is it? Isn't it Spielweise Editions? I think it's. Oh no, it's Edition Spielweise. Couldn't remember. Had to make some sort of a deal. I'm taking a wild stab that the artist. It's probably because of the artist. And I mean, I'm telling you, the artwork is phenomenal. But the artwork does not make the game or break the game. It's really, really cool artwork. So that's why I think you're looking at an $80 MSRP. For $80, I don't know. I mean, it's a fairly light game. It's easy to teach. I do like a lot of aspects of it. I think as a game, it's really good. Now, that being said, I know people get upset when I talk about online retailers, and it's not like I'm telling you a specific online retailer to go to. But I have seen that the Boldest is available for about $30 less. Yeah, $25 less. Yeah, I've seen it for $25, about $25 less than MSRP. So I have seen it online for around $55. $55 to me is a much more fair price as far as what you get in the Boldest and the component quality of it. But like I said, as far as a game itself, I really enjoy the game, and I give it an 8.3 out of 10. All right, so that is it for today's show as I move the Boldest box out of the way. So on tomorrow's show, I am going to take a first look. Where did I put it? There we go. I'm telling you, I got stuff all over the place here in the Duct Tape Studios. I'm going to take a look at Zephyr Winds of Change from Portal Dragon. That's right, the kind of steampunkish looking game. Okay, so as I like to point out, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, and hopefully giving a thumbs up to this video and subscribing to the channel, but when you're not doing that, please visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. By now you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. I will be back tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, and as always, Thank you very much for watching. Thanks again for watching The Daily Dope, presented by The Gaming Gang. If you like this episode, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And if you dig the channel, please subscribe. If you'd like to check out our previous episode, click right here. And if you want to check out a somewhat randomly selected episode, give a click right down here. It'll be like opening a box of Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what you'll get. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'm Jeff McAleer.